It's The Log. I'm Charles Purcell, checking in with you one more time here. It's a Friday, last day of the week. I'm going to make an effort here to leave the week on a high note. I've been a little... my mood is up and down, I'll admit it. I'll confess it right here. Wheesh. I hope you're well. I hope your mood is well. I hope your mental health is hanging in there. It's challenging times. But, it could be a lot worse, right? A few thousand votes in the swing states and things could be a hell of a lot worse. Well, speaking of our new president, we learned yesterday that Brenda Mallory will be nominated to run the Council on Environmental Quality. So the environmental team is coming together here. I wasn't very excited about John Kerry being named the so-called climate czar, more formally Special Presidential Envoy on Climate. That's the John Kerry position, with whom Mallory will be working closely. Now, a couple days before that, we learned about Gina McCarthy, who would coordinate the domestic climate group within the White House. John Kerry taking the global side, McCarthy taking the domestic side. And one of the headlines on Gina McCarthy a couple days ago referred to her as the climate czar, informally. And that got my attention. I thought, wait a minute, I thought John Kerry was. So that's when I learned, and I didn't know. I'm a dummy. Maybe you knew this. Yeah, John Kerry global, Gina McCarthy domestic. And then we talked the other day about Brian Dees, who's also going to be a top economic advisor, and he has experience on climate policy as well, so he's kind of part of this team. And we're not crazy about Brian Dees because he's a corporate guy. He comes from the corporate investment world. And yeah, his deal is all about promoting sustainability and finding opportunities for investors. Anyway, we talked about him the other day. I'm not a fan because he's pretty much steeped in that sort of corporate ethos. And I don't believe we're going to save the earth by investing in the right corporations. I just think that's going down the wrong path. People disagree. But let's get back to these new names here. Gina McCarthy, kind of exciting. McCarthy headed up the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, under Barack Obama, and currently is the chief executive of the NRDC, Natural Resources Defense Council. So that's not bad. That's really not bad at all. And then back to Brenda Mallory. There again, environmental lawyer, very much steeped in the corporate world. And in other words, these people they're not revolutionaries. Let's put it that way. But generally speaking, this is a pretty damn good team. And then the big news, the big cherry on top, is that we find out yesterday that he's chosen Representative Deb Haaland to head up the Interior Department. And this is just pretty fantastic because in every way she seems right for the job. And double cherry on top, she'll be the first Native American to serve as a cabinet secretary. And not just any old cabinet secretary. This is the Interior Department, which is responsible for millions of acres of federal land and works intimately with First Nations regarding tribal lands. This is really the first nomination that genuinely pleases progressives. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez quoted, "I'm over the moon right now. I think the Biden climate appointments, they represent progress." So, fellow lefties, we finally have something to cheer about here. Everything so far has been, okay, all right. Cabinet advisors, they're a little more diverse. I don't see any kind of real revolutionary advancement here, but all right. But the Deb Haaland thing really puts it over the top, at least in this area. And it's a huge area. He put the environment and climate change right at the top of his list of priorities. And these are looking good. Haaland tweeted in response to her being named, "A voice like mine has never been a cabinet secretary or at the head of the Department of Interior. Growing up in my mother's Pueblo household made me fierce. I'll be fierce for all of us. our planet, and all of our protected land. I am honored and ready to serve. Yeah, this is making me very happy today. I'm reading the Axios article. There's another quote that I'm not sure who it comes from. I guess it's AOC again? Anyway, I'll read it. Congressman Haaland would not just represent the first Native woman in charge of federal lands, but she brings a philosophy of both a commitment on climate and justice, and the historic weight of having a Native woman, no less a progressive one, in charge of federal lands is pretty enormous. Yeah, I think that's a continuation of the AOC response. So, okay, lefties, let's be happy. I mean, I do tend to go on and on about Joe. Not a fan. But this is good. And let's just make clear again. We here on the log, using the royal we, have declared ourselves the loyal opposition. We're not Democrats. We're not fans of Joe Biden. He's a centrist who's going to take us down the wrong path, albeit a little more slowly than the radical right-wingers. But with that kind of snarky attitude, I don't want to paint myself in a corner where I just automatically, knee-jerkingly oppose him at every turn. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm the loyal opposition. I'm very clear about what I don't like, but when he does something good, I'm going to praise him. I'm going to congratulate him. I'm going to thank him. I'm going to say, bully for you, and let's fight this thing together. He is my president. He's your president. He's our president. I'm fine with that. I think all of us, and it's an easy trap to fall into. All of us have fallen into that habit of deciding who your friend is and who your enemy is, and then automatically responding to each headline. Well, this person's my enemy, so ipso facto, I'm against him. So, Joe Biden. Yeah, he's my president. I'm not going to automatically oppose everything he does. I'm going to push and I'm going to push, and I'm going to be pleased when he does the right thing. And this environmental team, though not perfect, I kind of like these last couple of names he's dropped for us. And along with the other progressives, I'm pretty excited about Deb Haaland. Now, the fact that she's Native American, I just love. You know, it's not identity politics. Don't get all negative and cynical about that. No, I think it's great. I've said many times, and I mean it quite literally, I think the entire federal government should be mostly populated by Native Americans. I just think that's the very least we should do, given the history of this particular continent, invaded by white Europeans who stole the land and committed genocide against its indigenous people. Yeah, if I had the power to do it, I would hand over the keys. I would say, you know what? I'm really sorry. That was a terrible thing. Here, it's yours. Let's all live together in peace. And you've been here for tens of thousands of years. As far as how to treat the land and how to govern its inhabitants, it only makes sense. It only makes sense that we give you back your rightful position. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a joke. I mean it quite literally. So for Deb Haaland to be named Interior Department Secretary, it just pleases me to no end. Good for you, Joe. I saw about 10 seconds of Joe on Colbert last night, and I just wasn't too interested. I turned it off. Joe has very little to say that interests me. I'll say this much. You know, I don't want him to cake on thick orange pumpkin makeup like the current occupant does. But Joe seems averse to makeup. You're on camera, Joe. Everybody has a little makeup on camera. It's really okay. You can do that. Man, the guy's got bad skin. It's kind of blotchy, and it doesn't look healthy. It looks weird. It's hard to look at him. Now, who cares, right? It's just a little distracting. And like I say, everybody, and I mean everybody, who's on television, because of the bright lights, you wear a little makeup. And he doesn't seem to want to do that. I don't know. Are you too macho for that, Joe? Do you not want to wear makeup? His buddy John McCain was the same way. And, they're cut from the same cloth. They're the same generation. They were buddies. They hung out together. I can just see them. The two of them, I can just see it. They're in a TV studio, and there's stage managers and producers and all these production people getting them situated and clipping on their microphone, and somebody says, "Oh, get a little makeup on this guy." And I can see Joe or McCain saying, "Oh, no, I don't need any of that. No," and laughing and making these kind of lame homophobic jokes about not wearing makeup. I can just see it, because that's who they are. They're from this Mad Men generation. I can just see it. So when I see Joe with his really horrible, blotchy, kind of eerily thin skin, you can almost see through it. That's my thought. That's my speculation. It's like, you know what? I bet he doesn't like wearing makeup because it's this man thing he's got going. Pure speculation on my part. Pure speculation. But the guy doesn't look good. All right, what else is going on here? Oh, this is hilarious. This is not really a major story, but I just find it hilarious. Mike Pence, of course, as the vice president, it's his job on January 6th. Have I got the date right? I think it's January 6th. Yeah. That's the joint session of Congress, where they accept the votes of the Electoral College. And it's the vice president's job, as the person presiding over the Senate, to announce the results. So he's going to have to do that. Joe Biden had to do it 4 years ago when the Orange Menace and Bobblehead Mike won the Electoral College. Joe Biden had to suck it up and do it, and he did it. But I find it hilarious that Mike Pence is going to hit the gavel, walk out the door, get on a plane, and go to Europe. He's literally leaving the country. He does not want to be around. He doesn't want to see the boss. He doesn't want to hear from him. He's just heading out. It was announced yesterday. Going to leave the United States for about a week. They don't have any exact dates. Might be longer. Yeah, he doesn't want to be around. Because, of course, Vampira, what's his name? Stephen Miller, famously on Fox News earlier this week, talking about the only real date in the Constitution is January 20th. So they're going to fight right up until the end. They're going to use every tool in the kit, which has been pretty much exhausted now. They do have this January 6th joint session of Congress, where a couple of members are going to raise objections. And according to a procedure, you have to have at least one senator as well. And Ron Johnson of Wisconsin has indicated he might well be that senator. And Rand Paul has as well. A couple of nut jobs. They don't really have any chance of winning the day, but they could make the day more uncomfortable. They could make the day a little longer. Because if there is objection, then it goes from joint session back to separate House and Senate deliberations, and they have to debate for a while and then come back and do it again. I don't know exactly how it works. So not to worry, it's not going to change anything, but it will muddy up the waters for one more day. And yeah, the Orange Menace has right up until January 20th. So January 6th means nothing to him, except that his vice president is going to name Joe Biden president-elect, and he's not going to like that. I wonder if he'll fire him. Can a president fire a vice president? No, I don't think he can. I'm pretty sure he can't. If he could, he would. I'll bet you anything. Like he fired Bootlicker Bill Barr. We haven't talked about that either. Here, let's catch up on that story. That was, of course, a big headline earlier in the week. And you and I really haven't talked about it. I think my favorite thing is, of course, we've been calling him Bootlicker Bill for the last couple of years, right? That's what you and I call him, Bootlicker Bill. And that's why I was so pleased to see the Washington Post headline. This was great. The opinion piece written by, who wrote Ruth Marcus. Headline, Barr failed at his job. His bootlicking resignation letter made that clear. Washington Post headline, His boot-licking resignation letter made that clear. That's so great. Yeah, Ruth Marcus wrote a nice little, it's kind of a synopsis of Barr's career the last couple of years. Oh yeah, the letter just went on in praise of the president. I honestly don't understand what makes a guy like Bill Barr tick. Is he a true believer? I guess he is. But he's leaving December 23rd. And yes, he resigned technically, but of course he was fired. December 23rd, less than a month before the end of the presidency. So, I mean, I suppose I shouldn't be laughing. The acting AG will have those, 27, 28 days to assist the Orange Menace in any last-minute shenanigans he's got up his sleeve. So that, that actually could be serious. That could be a little scary. I shouldn't laugh about that. So let's recap Bill Barr's more notable achievements here. Well, right out of the gate was how he handled the Mueller investigation report. As you'll recall, he received the report from Mueller, but didn't make it public for several weeks. And in the meantime, he comes out with this memo and a couple of pressers where he completely lies about what's in the report and gives the American public and the newsies several weeks with only this completely bogus information about how the president was exonerated and there was no evidence found of any sort of collusion or coordination with the Russians. Nothing to see here, folks. Until the report was eventually released to the public, redacted up to its ears. But then we all get a chance to read it and realize, oh, Bootlicker Bill completely lied about this. There's tons of evidence. There are 10 separate, very well-defined charges of wrongdoing, of collusion. Mueller concluded that he could not formally indict the president because he was not allowed to do so by Justice Department policy. So that was the only reason. In diplomatic terms, he absolutely begged Congress to impeach the guy. He just said, I can't do it because of my job description in the Justice Department. I can't indict the president. I can't fire him. I can't impeach him. But you can. And you really ought to. And here are all the reasons why you should. Yeah, with everything else going on in the world, we tend to forget that Robert Mueller absolutely destroyed the Orange Menace in that report. But it was Bill Barr who created that alternate narrative that sat out there for weeks. And even the liberals bought it and engaged in self-flagellation. Oh, shame on us for crying, Russia, Russia, Russia. We were so wrong. And by the time the report comes out and an honest analysis is possible, the die has been cast. The Bootlicker Bill narrative has taken hold. His first and greatest accomplishment, Bootlicker Bill. And then as his tenure continued, just backed up the Orange Menace at every opportunity. Still regarding the Mueller report in his testimony to Congress, lied on several occasions. And always his little reverse jujitsu move where the Orange Menace becomes the victim. Oh, he's being persecuted and prosecuted unfairly and has every right to be defensive and upset, which is exactly the tone he took in his resignation letter. Your record is all the more historic because you accomplished it in the face of relentless, implacable resistance. He also mentions in the letter about these great historic Mideast peace deals he's brokered. We haven't really talked about that, but there are like a half a dozen of these so-called peace deals where the U.S. and Israel are strong-arming these little Arab countries into so-called peace agreements with Israel when they're not at war. And in this latest example, it's Morocco. And the way this works is the Orange Menace and his buddy Netanyahu are giving concessions to these Arab states. In this case, they recognize, they're like the only countries in the world who recognize Morocco's annexation of the Western Sahara, the last vestige of colonialism in Africa. So these so-called peace deals, these so-called Mideast peace deals, which completely screw the Palestinians, are bogus, and everybody knows it, but they find their way into Bootlicker Bill's resignation letter because he's just on board with everything. His fawning, as Ruth Marcus here puts it, fawning is too mild an adjective to describe this remarkable document. The word lickspittle has been understandably overused during the Trump years, but Barr's letter demands its redeployment. For this craven performance, Trump bestowed a measure of graciousness as he tweeted out Barr's departure. Our relationship has been a very good one, and he has done an outstanding job. Even though he was retweeting just days earlier about how they should fire his ass. He does that a lot. He retweets horrible, vile things. If you think what he says is bad, the retweets are even worse. And he did it with Sessions. He did it before he fired Jeff Sessions. He would retweet people saying, yeah, fire the bastard. He did the same thing with Barr. Anyway, I just find this kind of hilarious. And of course, on Barr's resume that he'll take with him, the ordering of chemical agents, clearing of Lafayette Square during the summer protests, deploying the U.S. military against American citizens. And in his now infamous testimony in Congress, it wasn't tear gas, it wasn't tear gas. Well, they were chemical irritants. No, they're not chemical irritants. Well, it was pepper bullets, right? Pepper spray? Well, yes. Okay. Yeah. We all saw it. We all know. We know exactly what you did. And the bootlicking just continued and continued right now up until the end. The lies, the comical lies about the stolen election, Bill Barr right there with him. Although, at the very end, he wouldn't come right out and say, when asked, was the election rigged? Was the election stolen? He wouldn't do it. And that's what sent the Orange Menace into his rage. And, okay, you're fired. I remember when my daughter was young, she would say, can I have a cookie? I'd say, sure, have a cookie. Can I have 2 cookies? Oh, they're small? Why not? Okay. Can I have 3 cookies? I don't know, 3's kind of a lot. I suppose this one time would be okay. Can I have 4 cookies? No, let's keep it at 3. I mean, I've already been quite generous here, and I think 3 cookies is enough. And then she would just turn on me. You're the worst dad in the world. That's what the Orange Menace does. Will you lie for me here? Sure. Will you lie for me again? Okay. Will you lie to Congress for me? Well, okay. Will you lie about the election results? I'm sorry, I can't do that. You're the worst attorney general ever. You're fired. You just do everything you can for the guy, but he'll always ask one more thing. Just like my little 4-year-old daughter. She would be just happy as a lamb, but just couldn't stop asking. Had to ask one more time. Never let it go. And then finally, when you reach that point of no, it's a meltdown. Anybody with young kids understands what I'm talking about. So, bye-bye, Bootlicker Bill. But, yeah, all jokes aside now, we do have an acting attorney general for the next few weeks here, Jeffrey Rosen, and he's in a position to do quite a lot of damage. The Orange Menace wants a special counsel named for the whole Hunter Biden thing. When he failed with Zelensky and Ukraine, he just never let up. He got Republican Senate committees to investigate. He got Ron Johnson hot on the trail. He got Rudy Giuliani. He just never gave up. And now he's got an acting U.S. Attorney General who can continue this obsession if he names a special counsel, which by very definition has some independence. Joe Biden and his new Attorney General can't just walk in and squash everything. You'd think that they could, but that's not how it works. And not only the Hunter Biden angle, but the 2016 you spied on me angle. That's a whole nother investigation. So the Orange Menace is just doing everything he can to trash the hotel room before he checks out. And speaking of checking out, reports are telling us that he's pretty much checked out. All of the shenanigans I've just described, That's pretty much all he's doing. He's just watching TV, just obsessing about the election, about what trouble he can make between now and inauguration, laying these little landmines and booby traps for the incoming, just trying to gum up the works as best he can, but not actually governing, which really has kind of been his MO for the last 4 years, but I guess it's even more so now. He did little to no work before. Now he's doing literally no work. Well, before we head out for a nice weekend, I want to give you one more recommendation. It's on the Charles Purcell Facebook page right now. I stumbled across a wonderful documentary about the anarchists of Catalonia during the Spanish Civil War. For a couple of years there, from 1936 to 1938, a sizable region of Spain lived under what they called libertarian communism. Anarchist collectives. Different cities within the region had some variations on the theme, some of them going so far as to abolish money altogether. It's a wonderful little documentary where we hear the voices of the people who lived it. I don't know when it was made. I'd have to check that out. It appears to be kind of a 1980s, maybe. So they were able to interview older men and women who lived it as young men and women. And it's just a beautiful description of the utopia that we dream of here on the log. And they speak with such pride and fondness of those couple of years where they fought for and achieved this anarchist Camelot, at least for a couple of years. Their descriptions about how, especially when they talk about the money thing. So there's no selfishness. There was no selfishness. It was inconceivable. When there's no money, there's no selfishness. I mean, at the heart of it all, I am an abolitionist. I want to abolish political parties, abolish borders, abolish money, abolish prisons, abolish police. There were no police for a couple of years in Catalonia. They weren't needed. There was shared responsibility. There was small d democracy. There were committees and collectives. Everybody who could worked hard. In fact, when the grand experiment finally ended at the end of the Spanish Civil War, and Franco and the state put an end to this utopia, they found the city of Barcelona and the region of Catalonia transformed from where it was just 2 years earlier. Happy, productive, thriving in every way. And it's not just about the distribution of goods. It's about education, about freedom. There's even a section about sexuality, about women's rights. And it's just a beautiful story of an actual case study of people who made it real. Really just made it real. So it was quite inspiring. It was great to find this documentary, to watch it. I encourage you to go to the Charles Purcell Facebook page and check it out. It's called Living Utopia, The Anarchists and the Spanish Revolution. My highest recommendation. Yep. Loved to see that it actually happened somewhere and inspired me to believe it can happen again. All right, with that happy thought, we launch into our weekend. Christmas right around the corner. I wish you all well. You know I love you. I'm Charles Purcell.